By the time we hit the core of the 2026 wedding season, if you walk into a luxury reception, there's a very good chance you won't see a single swooping fabric drape on the walls.
Yeah, you really won't.
In fact, you might not see the walls of the venue at all. You might step off a standard hotel elevator and find yourself physically standing inside like a constructed Roman courtyard.
Right, complete with the stone arches and everything.
Exactly, Tuscan climbing vines, the whole deal. And it will be completely torn down just 12 hours later. So today, we are looking at a stack of event design reports and trend analyses detailing this massive aesthetic earthquake in the luxury event space.
It's a huge shit.
It really is. Modern couples are completely erasing the traditional boundaries of the banquet hall. They want these breathtaking, immersive environments. They are essentially killing off the classic fabric drape and, pouring their budgets into what the industry calls scenic wall backdrops. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why people are building movie sets for a single dinner party, we really have to look at the psychology driving it.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that this transition away from draping, it isn't just a minor stylistic pivot.
Right.
It's not like a bride choosing silver cutlery instead of gold.
Right.
It actually represents a fundamental rewiring of how human beings approach experience-driven design. Because for decades, the ultimate goal of event design was, well, it was simply camouflage.
Right, hide the ugly stuff.
Exactly. You rent a room, it has ugly wallpaper or those distracting exit signs, and you just hide them. You hang up beautiful, soft white chiffon, and you soften the box you were standing in. But, you were still very aware that you were inside a decorated box.
Right. That soft filter effect has been the undisputed king of event decor for, 30 years?
Easily.
But according to these trend reports, the baseline expectations of guests, and specifically the couples who are actually footing the bill, have drastically changed. The data here grades traditional draping as providing only a moderate level of visual depth.
Yeah.
Why is that suddenly a massive deal breaker in 2026?
Well, because a drape only decorates.
Right.
It doesn't transport. Modern couples, they no longer want a space that just feels softly elegant in a generic way. They are demanding environments that tell a highly specific story. Think about the physics of traditional fabric draping for a second.
Okay.
It is essentially a flat plane. It provides zero architectural depth. Scenic walls, however, are these feats of temporary engineering that provide immense spatial volume.
Wow, yeah.
They transform a standard flat ballroom into an environment with a distinct foreground, a midground, and a background.
So it feels like we're moving from, a theater set with a painted canvas backdrop to like a full-blown VR experience where you're physically standing inside the scenery.
That is a perfect analogy.
But wait, let me challenge this premise before we would just declare the absolute death of the drape.
Sure.
Is traditional draping actually extinct? Or are we just, holding a simple background element to an impossible standard? I mean, historically, it just sits behind the head table to make the couple look nice during speeches.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
And the industry analyses definitely carve out a niche where traditional draping survives.
Okay, where is that?
Specifically in ultra-minimalist weddings or highly understated corporate galas. So no, it isn't completely extinct.
Got it.
But scenic walls are conquering the luxury market because they force a total paradigm shift in the guest experience. The source material draws a hard line between decorative and immersive.
Interesting.
When a couple invests heavily in a celebration today, they don't want you to walk in and say, oh, what a pretty room. They want a psychological reset.
Yeah.
They want you to feel geographically displaced.
That makes total sense. But if a white drape isn't enough to achieve that, what actually is? You can't just put up a nicer curtain. What are these planners physically building inside these venues?
Oh, the construction scale is staggering. The reports detail 4 major trending categories. The first is European architectural.
Oh, I saw this in the report.
Yeah, designers are physically fabricating walls right inside these venues. We are talking about carpenters and scenic artists building functional archways.
Bringing in stone-textured pillars.
Exactly, and applying Roman stucco finishes. They are recreating incredibly intricate Mediterranean landscapes indoors. Perfect for those giant ballrooms and editorial photography.
I was looking at the schematics and the source materials, and it is literal masonry-style work happening on a Thursday for a Saturday wedding.
It's wild.
It really is. It gives you that timeless elegance, but with actual physical structure that you can reach out and touch. But let's say stone pillars aren't exactly the vibe a couple is going for.
Right.
The reports also highlight a massive pivot towards structural floral gardens, and the mechanics of how they build these are just wild. wild.
And we have to be clear here, these are not just metal trellises with some ivy wrapped around them.
No, not at all.
Floral architects are combining artificial botanicals, living hanging greenery, and beautifully painted landscape backings to create these really dense, romantic atmospheres.
Hmm.
But the genius is really in the visual manipulation. To create depth in a confined room, they use highly specific color palettes and forced perspective.
Right. The reports specifically break down the color gradations. Planners use like bright white roses and hydrangeas at the forefront, right?
Exactly.
And then that blends back into soft blush peonies and then fades into darker hanging wildflower arrangements in the rear. They are artificially creating a horizon line with flowers.
Which is brilliant because that gradation mimics how the human eye perceives distance in nature. Lighter objects appear closer, and darker, less saturated objects sort of recede.
Wow.
So when you stand in front of this floral wall, your brain registers it as a deep, expansive garden rather than a flat arrangement just pressed against a hotel wall.
But what if you want something even more sweeping than a garden?
Well, then you look at the third category, which is nature-inspired murals.
Right, to create these calm, sweeping, rustic luxury themes.
Yeah, we are talking enormous hand-painted or highly engineered murals of mountain ranges, cascading waterfalls, lush forests, sunsets.
They are literally trying to bring the vastness of the outdoors inside.
Very much so.
Which brings us to the most extreme end of the spectrum. Here's where it gets really interesting. The budgets completely detach from reality when we look at the custom personalized scenic walls.
Oh, the bespoke installations.
Yes.
This is where designers are building walls centered entirely around a couple's specific heritage, or, monograms, family artwork.
Or a recreation of the cafe where they met.
Exactly.
Hold on, I need to push back on this. A giant fake mountain, a painted waterfall, or a replica of a Parisian cafe indoors.
I know what you're going to say.
Doesn't that run the massive risk of feeling incredibly cheesy? Like you've walked into a high school gymnasium for a night in Paris prom theme?
Yeah.
How does a luxury event planner keep a 40-foot mural of a lake from feeling like you're standing in front of a giant piece of painted cardboard?
That is the exact trap that amateur design falls into, and the reports are very careful to outline the mechanics of luxury execution here.
Okay, so how do they avoid it?
They prevent that prom theme feeling
Uh-huh.
through intense layering. You are never just looking at a flat printed poster. A high-end scenic wall combines the 2D art with 3D floral architecture that spills out from the wall into the physical space. And the true secret weapon, which the industry heavily emphasizes, is the cinematic lighting.
It's funny you mention the lighting because that fixes the exact problem modern wedding photographers have been screaming about for 5 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The comparative breakdown in the documents is stark. They classify scenic walls as having an exceptional photography impact.
And draping.
Draping only offers a standard impact. Think about how a digital camera sensor works.
Yeah.
A flat white curtain is just a nightmare to photograph dynamically.
Yeah, it just bounces everything back.
Exactly. It absorbs and reflects light in a uniform, flat way. It washes out the subjects and offers basically zero contrast.
But a scenic wall, with its physical geometry like the stone pillars protruding, the dense floral arrangements casting microshadows, it gives the light something to actually bounce off of.
Yes.
It creates organic highlights and deep shadows. The photographers actually prefer these walls because they act as giant textured light modifiers.
That's a great way to put it.
It gives the images a moody, luxury, editorial appearance. You look like you're in a spread for Vogue rather than standing in front of a bedsheet.
And that photographic upgrade,
Correct.
that leads to the true heartbeat of this entire trend.
The social media ROI.
Bingo.
Yeah.
The reports label the viral value of these walls as extremely high. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Pinterest have aggressively conditioned users to expect dramatic, hyper-curated visual settings.
Yeah.
The scenic walls naturally cater to the algorithm because they provide unparalleled depth and unique storytelling.
So what does this all mean? I want you to really think about the psychology of this for a second. Couples aren't just building a physical room for their guests anymore.
No.
Are they essentially building a practical special effect for a camera lens? I mean, is this entire architectural trend just a byproduct of our obsession with going viral? Are couples designing their weddings for their guests in the room or for their followers online?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is that it's actually both. Yeah, the physical event and the digital documentation are no longer separate concepts. They're a single, unified goal. The scenic wall provided an incredibly emotional, tangible experience for the 200 people standing in the room.
Because walking under a constructed Roman archway is genuinely breathtaking.
Right. But the extraordinary physical depth required to make it look breathtaking to the human eye is the exact same depth required to satisfy the camera sensor. You build the room to evoke a feeling, and the geometry of that build ensures the feeling translates perfectly to the lens for the 20,000 people watching the 10-second clip the next morning.
Wow. It's the ultimate double-duty investment.
Exactly.
But you can't just drop a masterpiece Tuscan villa wall into a room with, like, standard geometric hotel carpeting and cheap conference chairs. How are planners building the rest of the physical room around this massive photographic anchor?
They are basically treating the scenic wall as the sun and engineering a complete solar system around it.
Oh, I like that.
The strategy outlined in the reports is one of high-impact concentration. Planners use the scenic wall as the absolute focal point. It instantly elevates the venue's aesthetic.
Which eliminates the need to scatter hundreds of smaller, cheaper decor items around the room.
Precisely.
It's like temporary interior design on steroids. You aren't just decorating a room, you're engineering a complete ecosystem that only exists for a few hours.
Right, a fully integrated environment.
They pair these walls with statement chandeliers that physically draw the eye toward the backdrop. They install dense floral ceilings that mirror the textures on the wall. They lay down highly reflective custom dance floors that literally double the visual impact.
Yeah, mirroring it perfectly.
Imagine walking through a grand entrance tunnel, stepping onto a reflective floor, and seeing a Mediterranean garden stretching up